God bless you, loved ones. Welcome to the Word with Chester. Today we'll begin study in the 47th chapter of the book of Genesis. Thank God for you. I do appreciate you for logging on. I realize that your time is valuable and you don't have to, but I thank God that you do. I want to thank God for all the new friends that He's given to us on Facebook and those that are following us on other parts of the web. I want you to know that I appreciate you so very much, and I'm asking God to bless you, and I'm asking you to pray for me and pray for this ministry that God would take it to the level that He desires it to be. God is doing so many wonderful things, and I have many things to express to you as we go on, but I won't take the time to do it today. God has told us many things, or talked to us about many things, and the direction He wants this ministry to go, but I need your prayers. I can't do it without you. I need you to pray for me that God perfect will be done in our lives, and that He will anoint me for His service. Now let's go to verse 1 of chapter 47 in the book of Genesis. Now remember where we are, for those of you that are just now logging on. In our last lesson we read where Israel and all of his family had came out of Canaan and came into the land of Egypt. And here, in this particular passage of scripture we're about to read, that they're going to stand before Pharaoh. They're going to get to talk to the king and meet the king. So this is where we are in our lesson as things are unfolding. As we begin our reading today in chapter 47 and verse 1, the Bible reads, "Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, My father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan. Behold, they are in the land of Goshen." Now Goshen was in the land of Egypt, in Egypt. Well, shall we continue reading? "And he took some of his brethren, even five men, and presented them unto Pharaoh." What do you mean? There was 12 sons, and he only took 5 of them. He didn't take them all. I'm not going to go into the names of the ones that he took with him, but he did take 5 with him. Now let's read in verse 3. "And Pharaoh said unto his brethren, What is your occupation?" Now remember, Joseph had instructed them what to say, because he knew Pharaoh was going to ask these questions, and he instructed them in our last lesson. If you did not listen to that lesson, it will be good for you to go to our archives and listen to it. Now verse 3, "And Pharaoh said unto his brethren, What is your occupation?" And they said unto Pharaoh, "Thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers." Now remember, you need to listen to our last lesson so you can get intelligence of what we're talking about now. Now verse 4, they said, "Moreover unto Pharaoh, to sojourn in the land we are come, and thy servants, for the famine is let me read it right. "To sojourn in the land we are come, for thy servants have no pasture for their flock. For the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now therefore I pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen." Now remember how severe the famine was. There was nothing growing. It was dry. It had been dry 2 to 3 years at this time. Remember the 7 years of plenty where Joseph put back grain, but now we're in the time of the famine where there's no rain, and the drought was severe, and nothing was growing. Now let's continue to read in verse 5. "And Pharaoh spoke unto Joseph, saying, Thy fathers and thy brethren are come unto thee, and the land of Egypt is before thee. In the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen let them dwell, and if thou knowest any able men among them, then make them rulers over my cattle." Now what is he saying? Pharaoh's saying, I'm just opening up and laying out the red carpet for your family. We're going to give them this land of Goshen, the best land, the best vegetation, the best growing land in Egypt. And then of your brethren, because you got to understand, Joseph, such great wisdom was in him, and God's Spirit was in him. Pharaoh knew that, and here he is saying to Joseph, if any of your brothers have the wisdom to lead and the wisdom to do things, I want you to make them rulers over my cattle. Not only the cattle there in Goshen, which belong to them, but make them rulers over my cattle. In verse 7, and Joseph brought in Jacob, his father, and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Jacob blessed Pharaoh. He blessed the king. Let's read on. And Pharaoh said unto Jacob, how old art thou? And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. Well, what did Israel say? Please excuse me. He said, I'm 130 years old, and I still have not lived up to the age of my fathers. If you remember, his father lived like 170-something years. He said, I still haven't reached their age. Let me read it again so you'll understand it in verse 9. And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. Let's read on in verse 10. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph placed his father and his brethren and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, and the best of the land, in the land of Ramesses. Now, keep that name in mind, Ramesses. We're going to read about it again as we go into the book of Exodus. In the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. Now, let's read on. Verse 12, and Joseph nourished his father and his brethren and all his father's house with bread according to their families. He gave them food, gave them bread. You got to understand the famine was severe in Canaan, but Joseph here, he's fattening them up now, getting them well fed like they need to be. In verse 13, and there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very severe, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. It was so severe that people just couldn't survive. They didn't have bread to eat. They couldn't feed their cattle. And this is how severe the famine was. In verse 14, and Joseph gathered up all his money. Gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought, and Joseph brought the money unto Pharaoh's house. Now get it now. People from all around the land of Canaan, other countries, had to come and buy grain from Joseph, and Joseph took their money. Or he gave them the grain, but the money came to him, and then he took it to Pharaoh. Now this is all the money around the land. Think about it, the possessions that he had. Let's read verse 15. And when money had failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. Well, what do you mean? Their currency that they use, it failed. Don't you know that can happen in any country? If things get so severe, even the money won't buy what people need. They can have all the money in the world and it still won't purchase anything. And this was the case in the land of Egypt, in the land of Canaan, and in the lands around. The famine was so severe, they brought all the money and bought the gain. Joseph had all the money and presented it to Pharaoh. Well, they still couldn't eat after they spent all their money, and the currency failed. Well, let's read verse 15 and continue. And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For thy money for the money faileth. Why should we die? We're coming to you. Give us bread. Now I'm going to read one more verse today, and we'll continue in the next setting. In verse 16, and Joseph said, give your cattle, and I will give you for your money, if money fail. In other words, you can't purchase with money. Bring me your cattle. Bring me something in trade, and I'll give you grain. So here, the prosperity of Joseph and the prosperity of Egypt, or Pharaoh, is growing because the men, they used all their money and the currency failed. Now they're bringing him their own cattle and the things that they cherish so they can eat bread. Now, we're going to talk about this further in our next session. I encourage you to be here. We have much to unfold. You need to hear the next lesson so you can get the fullness of what's going on in this area. I want you to know that I love you, my friends. I love you with the love of the Lord. If you would like to contact me for any reason, you can reach me at the Word with Chester Ministries, Post Office Box 200483, San Antonio, Texas, 78220. You can also reach me at my website, www.poemsbychester.com. Remember ICD, it will be a blessing to you, and you will be a blessing to this ministry. Remember, my friends, I love you. I love you with the love of the Lord. God bless you.